This is, I think, one of Sony's most underrated lenses. It's the 24-105 f4 G lens, but it is a superb all-in-one kind of running gun lens. This has been like 90% of my YouTube videos. A bunch of my client work is this lens with everything I've shot over the last couple of years, because it's just rock solid and it gives you such a fantastic focal range to work with. So today we're going to walk over to Mendenhall Glacier because I'm in Juneau, Alaska for some work, and I'm going to try and show you what this lens is capable of and what makes this such an underrated lens from Sony. One of the things I do appreciate about this camera, or this lens, is that it has optical image stabilization built in, which you would not believe how much it helps having that little extra bit of stabilization. Even with all of the IBIS and active stabilization stuff that's built into the cameras now, optical image steady shot or lens-based stabilization really does add a lot and really helps to get a smooth, or a much smoother image if you're shooting handheld video. So here's a clip where there's no image stabilization at all, just me trying to hold the camera smooth while I'm walking. Now we're on standard stabilization, which you can already see how much better it is and how much more smooth it is, even though I'm not able to hold this very steady because I'm walking. And then we're on active. Now, if you have a newer Sony body, since the a7S III, if I remember right, there's active stabilization, and then even newer have dynamic active, but that crops in like 30-40%, so that's quite a bit of crop. This only crops in about 10%. So I think this is a good spot to show off the focal range of this lens. So, and what I mean by that is, having a wide angle lens is great, but to really get a true to life perspective about how big some of these places I go are, you actually want to be able to zoom in a bit. And so having 24-105 is a great zoom range for being able to bring the background and the foreground, the subject together. I'm going to set the camera here. This is also, coincidentally, this is why I wear a red jacket all the time, is makes me stand out well against the backdrop. So you get a good idea quickly of how big these places are, because otherwise there's nothing to judge scale by. You just see a huge glacier and a bunch of blue ice, and that's it. So we're gonna do this at 24 millimeters. So another thing is that even though this lens has been out 4 or 5 years, 6 years maybe, it still has really good autofocus. It's pretty snappy. We're gonna set it to the fastest speeds that the A1 has, and then we'll do my preference for video shooting, at least, is much slower speeds because it looks more natural. So the first thing is, of course, just does it keep up with when you're walking towards it? It does. So here we're in shot. I mean, that's insanely fast. Even though this lens has been out for that long, that is really quick for focus. So, and that's at 105 millimeters at the most wide open aperture that this lens produces. Well, basically most 4.5. All right, let's go see what we can find up closer to Glacier for some photos and some fun stuff to see. One of the things a lot of people don't realize about glaciers is, even though they're ice, they are moving year-round. So there's not really a active, non-active time. They are more active in the summer when it's warmer, but they are still moving during the winter. So it's not safe to go up to the edge of them because there are still pieces coming down and still incredibly dangerous at the toe here. We're gonna do a little focus breathing test, because believe it or not, this lens is basically parfocal, and it has very little focus breathing. So we've got this big iceberg frozen in the lake here that makes for a very good subject. You can see as it changes from near to far focus, there's no focus breathing at all, and that is just beautiful. And this is the A1, so it has no focus breathing compensation yet, which I am looking forward to that coming soon. And it also is parfocal. So I'm at f4, filming in 8K30, and I'm focused on the iceberg that's closest to me. And it stays in focus. Parfocal is not an issue if you're just shooting photos, and focus breathing really isn't either, because you can adjust the frame. What is important is when you get into video, because as soon as your frame is changing in or out, it really gets distracting for people watching the video. And parfocal is really important if you're doing documentary work or anything fast running gun, where you might be zooming in to get a shot and then having to pull out to get a shot, not necessarily for crash zooms, but just being able to move quickly when you're doing documentary stuff is crucial. And having a parfocal lens that once you get focus set where you want it, you know you can zoom in or zoom out and not have to readjust focus is really, really important. Just said hi to a couple of guys out here filming with a camcorder for a snowboarding film, but they told me there's a great cave up here that is fairly easy to get to, so we're gonna run up and see if we can find it. This is a good spot to show you the optical steady shot when it comes to slow shutter speeds. I can do right here, I'm at 1/3 of a second. Yeah, see, that's nice and sharp. That's great. I'm really, really curious to see how far back in here this goes, because it clearly goes back in here a ways. How cool is this? Hey, if you're enjoying this or getting value out of this content, then consider subscribing. My goal is to help other solo creators like myself make good decisions when it comes to purchasing gear, and then also teach the skills you need to take your productions to the next level. All right, that wasn't the cave that they were talking to me about, so we've got to get up there. Clearly, lots of people go up though. Oh yeah, this is a good cave. Check this out. I love it when there's lots of light coming through the top. Man, this is sweet. This is so cool. Here's some good detail shots that we can get. I mean, I am just inches away. So this is the one place that I wish this was wider, but honestly, like I'm talking wider like 14 millimeters, because that makes, I mean, this cave is big, but it makes the cave seem massive, absolutely huge. So while 24 is wide enough for almost everything, in something like this, I wish it was like 20 or 14, because honestly, like a 14 mil or 12 mil would be just incredible. It would make this cave seem absolutely giant. I do have a 20 millimeter prime with me, which I might go ahead and take or use, and we'll do a little comparison. But I think the 24 will be wide enough to capture most of this. This is where the red jacket really helps. How cool is that shot? Just, all right, on to the next spot. Look how clear the ice is. I mean, that is feet, like 2-3 feet of ice right there. So I found another cave I think we're gonna go try and check out. I gotta see if we can get to it first. That's the sketchy part. It's just incredibly cool because you get this beautiful backlit clear ice so the sunlight comes through and gives you this beautiful cobalt glacier blue that just looks amazing in photos and video. Let's talk a little bit more about why the 24-105 I think is just one of Sony's most underappreciated lenses. Not only does it have really good image quality for the price, because I think it runs around 1,200 bucks usually. You can find it on sale around 1,000 quite often. But you've seen some of the photos already, and they're really good. They're sharp, they're crisp, the contrast is nice, the coloring is fantastic. I mean, you saw the photos I've taken today, but I've taken a ton of photos with this lens, and every single time, I mean, it just produces really solid, really great image quality. And the same goes for video. I mean, the video quality that comes out of this is great. It just is really solid, really good. There's a reason that they sell this as a kit lens with the FX6 and so many other cameras, is that it really is a jack of all trades. That means that yes, it's not a master of everything either. It's, you know, not necessarily going to be the best lens in low light because it's f4, although most Sony bodies are capable of producing some pretty dang good low light imagery now. It doesn't matter so much, but if you're going to go out and do astrophotography or aurora stuff like I do, then yeah, this is not going to be the best lens. You're going to want a prime lens with you, which is what I do. I run around with a 24-1.4 or the 21.8. Both are spectacular astro lenses and a good complement to this lens, especially the 21.8, because then you get a little bit wider. But in most areas, I'd say probably 75-80%, maybe even 90%, like this lens will do the job. And the best part is that it's one lens you put on your camera and you don't have to worry about taking it off again, which if you're in places like this or out working in the wild, you don't necessarily want to be swapping lenses very often because it will get dust on your sensors. I can attest to the fact that this lens is really well weather sealed. It's withstood a ton of abuse over the last few years that I've owned it. Rain, snow, winds, ice, you name it. The only time it broke was when I dropped it out of the back of my car accidentally. And the nice thing is too, you can see it has some nice features. There's a button here, which I use to flip in and out of APS-C mode. You've got an autofocus, manual focus switch, and a steady shot on or off switch here. So this lens really is an excellent jack of all trades with a great focal range from handheld stuff all the way to punching and zooming way in, and gives you really steady imagery because of the built-in lens stabilization. But there are a couple of things that I'd love to see Sony improve on the version 2 of this lens, which, by the way, Sony, please give us a version 2 of this lens. It's fantastic. The 20-70 is decent, I like it, but without the steady shot and without that extra punch in of being able to go all the way to 105, I really do miss that. So please give us a version 2 of this lens. Here's what I'd like to see improved. If they can make this a little smaller and a little lighter, that would be amazing, because this is a lens that I do pretty much everything with, so any little bit of weight I can lose would be fantastic. And I'd love to see the aperture ring be placed on here like most of the newer Sony lenses. And of course, obviously Sony, if you can improve the optics and give us a little bit sharper imagery, that would be amazing as well. But now I'd like to hear from you. Are you thinking of this lens? Have you used this lens? Do you like it? I mean, for me, it's the lens I use 90-ish% of the time when I'm out running and gunning, because it's just so versatile. But next, you're going to want to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, you can ask me in the comments below, or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we can have more of a conversation and maybe I can answer questions that I wasn't able to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.